Welcome to Pilates. Come on in and have a look around. Today I would love to introduce you to the Pilates Reformer. If you've ever been curious about Pilates and how it's helpful and how it works, I would like to answer some of those questions with a little movement session today. Here are the Pilates Reformers, and I'm going to introduce you to the very first foundational exercise called footwork, and we'll kind of talk through the importance and the value of why I feel like footwork is so important and the benefits that I have experienced and that I find my clients experience all the time. Stay tuned. So we will start with the springs. So Pilates uses springs on all of your equipment, which for me feels just like I'm moving from my fascial body. So the coil and the recoil that each spring has, right? It can begin to give you that feeling of the coil and recoil of our fascial system. So you begin to feel movement not from a just muscular place, but how all the muscles are connected. So we'll start by loading the springs. So as you can see, there are three colors and 5 springs. For footwork today, traditionally they will start with 4 springs, but I'm going to work from a little bit more of a fascial place. So I'm going to actually use just 1 red spring and 1 blue. And that will be determined per person. That could be too light for some individuals. It could even be too heavy for some. Usually that's a good place to start. So I'll be cueing or just talking about my experience, and I'm coming from a embodied Pilates perspective. The classical way is great. It's very useful. What I have found is approaching the classical work with an embodied perspective provides great healing and progress of repatterning the nervous system, as well as developing a deeper relationship with myself and my body, because I'm learning to tune in and listen. So we have two springs on, and this is the foot bar, right? So the foot bar goes up, goes down. It has a couple different settings. We can start with it in high, or we can start with it in middle position. Today, I'm going to start with it in the middle position, if I can hold on. There we go. Okay, so stay tuned. Okay, so we have our springs in place. Our foot bar is in position. Our headrest can be all the way flat. It can lift up to middle, or it can lift up to the highest position. I'm going to lay down onto my back, and I'm going to place my feet onto the foot bar. So we'll start with, in footwork, we do 3 foot placements, and classically you start on the balls of the feet. Sometimes it's useful to start on the heels. Today we'll start on the balls of the feet. I'm going to lay down and find a comfortable spot to start. So I begin by just noticing like what's releasing into the mat, just checking in with my breath, just connecting my feet. So I'm just going to let my feet rest for a moment. Just noticing my pelvic weight on the right side, on the left side. Noticing my rib cage weight, if I can feel my rib cage weight. Some of us are really tight in our backs. So it may take a little moment to rest down. I will often just kind of bring a sandbag across the rib cage if that's useful. And then just kind of feeling my shoulders and my arms. And I want to get this sense of myself yielding into gravity. And then just sensing breath. So sensing where the breath is moving. Is it in the belly? Can I invite it more into the side of the body? Can I invite it into the back of my body? Can I feel the weight of my head? we just began to just observe and kind of take like this, a check-in, like a baseline check-in. Are my shoulders rounded forward? How much of my arm can I feel, right? And then I'm gonna bring I can kind of feel my way onto the balls of my feet. So classically, heels together in like a V position. This kind of helps you find, for me, it helps me find midline, and it helps me know both sides of the legs. So when I bring my heels together, my right side will like come in more dominantly than the left. And so the left side gives my left side an opportunity to engage into midline and into the right side, right? It also allows you to feel your inner thighs and the back of the legs, so that this isn't a leg press and it's not working the quads, that it's more about how are you in your feet and that relationship of your feet to the back of the legs, to the front of the spine, right? So fascially, that's the map way. And what else happens up here to maybe compensate or not? So I'm gonna connect to my breath again, feeling the length, feeling the width, and feeling the depth. So breath, back, side, top to bottom. I'm gonna exhale all the breath out. I'm gonna feel for the big toe mounds. I'm gonna feel for the pinky toe mounds, right? I'm gonna notice if my heels are just dropping or if they're really high up. I do want my feet to like wake up. So if I find some load through the balls of the feet, my heels will lift, right? I'm not lifting my heels muscularly from my calves, right? And I'm not collapsing and just not even engaging. It's like just enough. I find that grounding through the balls of my feet. I feel my heels connecting together to find my midline. Right? And on my next in breath, I'm just gonna start to feel as I load weight through my feet. I'm kind of pouring through my feet, through the foot bar, and I'm trying to feel that ground reaction force coming up to feel like some core support here. Right? Exhale, I'm gonna sit down, and as I do, I'm gonna keep feeling that load through my feet, keep feeling the weight through my hips and my ribs. On the in breath, and it's like my legs are breathing as an extension to the spine. And as I exhale, my hips feel their weightedness, the ribs feel their weightedness. Good. On the in breath, I'm gonna think about my feet going through the bar and my femurs being drawn up from the back of the leg to the low belly. And exhaling as I sit down. So my pelvis kind of stays in this little neutral position, right? And I'm noticing, do my feet want to roll out or do they want to roll in? So I'll go into a parallel position. And this will give me a little bit more feeling, right? If I'm more weight bearing on one side, right? If I'm standing in front, I can see if someone's knees are falling out or in, right? Exhaling. So my feet are having to do a good amount of work here, and I'm sensing the load and where I may need to draw more energy or less effort. When I say energy, exhale in, good. And I'm thinking about the back of the legs, not that I'm squeezing my butt. Sometimes that's necessary to get a feel for that, but that there's a sense of when I'm lowering down that I'm not just all in my quads, right? That I can still feel this relational heel to sit bone. So when I'm reaching through my feet, there's a little tone and engagement there, right? And then exhaling. So that would be toes on, or balls of the feet on. Second position would be arches on, or boat on approach. So I'm placing it right below the ball of the foot. Right, and so we have 33 joints in our feet, and this position is really about opening up the feet. So I'm not pushing with my quads. I really am allowing my feet to just soften and spread, opening, opening. The heels melting under, the toes melting over, and I'll get to know where I'm holding some tension through my feet, right? Exhale, I'm gonna find way through my hips and ribs because I wanna connect. With my brain, I'm gonna feel how my feet are connected to my head, through the spine, through the legs. Exhale, good, feeling that. So when I keep feeling weight in my hips and ribs, I kind of feel this little tone through the front of my body. And then I can just pay attention to how the legs connect to midline, right? Where I may be sensing some tension, right? What I often can see is like the toes, not knowing how to relax. The front of the ankles, the feet can hold a lot of tension. And so this is an opportunity to learn how to release tension. When I play on roots and even when I'm climbing trees, this is super valuable. If I'm climbing a tree barefoot, my foot really has to learn how to melt around it. And if I lose that connection, then I'm losing support, right? All right, now the third one is heels on. So I'm about sit bone distance apart, okay? Feeling again that equal load through the pelvis, that I'm not pushing my back down. I'm just in what we call a neutral pelvis. I'm gonna check in with my heel weight, right? So as I inhale, again, I'm thinking of sit bone to heel, right? Not just quads, sit bone to heel. So kind of initiating from here. This position is easier to feel. I'm gonna go ahead and spread my toes. I'm gonna stay standing for a moment. So I want this to feel like I'm actually standing on the ground. So when I flex my feet, when my feet are flexed here, I'm not flexing it from my shins, right? I'm flexing it by imagining there's ground underneath my feet so that my big toe mound kind of goes forward, my pinky toe mound goes forward, and I'm getting this spread, right? And I'm also noticing if I'm rolling out or I'm rolling in. So this is a way to help change your gait pattern as well. This is standing and sitting, right? So I'm standing up and I'm sitting down. How do I stand? By pouring into that whole foot, right? Exhale. So what I'm noticing is that my right leg right now, which it normally does, it likes to do all the work. So I get to spend some time, since I'm not using all my body weight, to really kind of help myself pay attention and embody or occupy this left side of my body, right? And one of the cues I really like to use is how are my feet or heels sharing the load? So I don't want to just dump all of it to the left side, but just kind of being curious, like how are my heels sharing the load? And then all of a sudden, you start to kind of feel your legs communicating and your feet communicating. And you can start to feel that deep within. So it's really about Pilates for me, especially Embodied Pilates, is really about helping the body have deeper conversations within, helping it move more from a whole system and not parts and pieces. All right, the last one is called, classically they call it tendon stretch, I've learned it also as heel lowers. So again, I can go to that Pilates V position, or I'm going to be in a neutral alignment with my feet. So I'm going to start with V because it helps me find midline, helps me find my left coming into my right equally. Finding the load through the big toe mounds, the pinky toe mounds, that gives my heels a little bit of a lift, right? And then from here, you'll notice like my legs don't really straighten all the way. I always have this slight little bend, and this is from just years of way I've used my body. So I'm learning how to straighten my leg, not from locking, right? So we don't want to lock the knees, right? And I also don't want to stay in a bent knee. So I don't hyperextend, so it's hard for me to demonstrate, but a lot of people that lock back and hyperextend have to learn how to keep the knee open and using more of their seat, like to feet and core connection. So I'm going to slowly lower the heels under as I think about my tail back of my body. So my tail stays kind of tracking towards my heels as my heels float up. Exhaling, I'm still sensing the balls of my feet being loaded or met by the bar, right? And I'm pouring through the big toe mound, pinky toe mound-ish to lift the heels. So you could just say lift and lower your heels, right? And a lot of that's coming from quad. Or I'm gonna really play with grounding and ground reaction force, like partnering with gravity or partnering with the springs. So if I pour into the big toe mound, pinky toe mounds, my heels naturally just lift. I'm feeling a lot of that in my seat. I can open my heels. That takes a little bit out of that midline. Good. And then I really have to feel like, is my weight rolling out and rolling in? So really working the feet. And how are they sharing load here? Exhaling as I lower. Good. As I inhale, I'm going to think of my tail just staying releasing towards my heels. And that kind of gives me this feeling of like deep suspenders coming up through, right? And as I lift, I want to stay grounded. Exhaling. This is pretty light, but my feet are already feeling tired. So I'm going to kind of walk that out. Now when I'm walking, I'm, again, what is my point of contact? So all my points of contact, hips, ribs, head, I want to feel that. And then the bar, so even of the heel that's going under, right, I'm not just going to dump my weight and disconnect this left foot. I'm going to stay connected to the left foot. I'll feel engagement through the left back of that hip, right? The hip extensors, and same thing on the right. So I'm not going to just drop my weight in the left heel. I'm still going to put some load through this ball of this foot, which turns on that sit bone to heel connection, kind of lower glute, upper hamstring. And I'm going to switch and practicing how do I stay in both feet? How do both feet and legs communicate, right, as I'm walking, prancing, jogging, finding breath, and the equal weight to the ball of the foot. Am I away in that pinky side? And I can usually see that on clients that their knees will kind of fall out or fall in. Instead of me having them align their knee, I cue their foot, the load in their foot. So if their knee is falling out to the side, I'll cue, how do you find more load through the ball of the big toe side? And that immediately will fix their knee, right? And that more optimal alignment. Okay, and I'm gonna sit all the way down. Rest my calves, give my calves a little mild fascial massage here. And we are done.